In this next video, we're going to take what we learned about the zero product property, and we're going to use that to solve equations in what's called factored form. Okay, so what does factored form look like? Factored form looks like this. So we've been talking about factoring these kind of quadratic trinomials, and when we factor them, they end up looking like this. But what if we take that and we say, hey, you know what? Now that's equal to 0. Well, we just learned about the zero product property, which says, okay, well, if these two numbers are multiplying to get 0, then either this number has to equal 0 or this number has to equal 0. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to say, okay, well, in order for this equation to be true, because remember, when we solve equations, what we're looking for is what number makes this true, right? So that means either this has to be 0 or this has to be 0. So there's actually going to be two possibilities that make this equation true. And the first is that this number in this parentheses is 0. So x minus 3 equals 0. And the second possibility is that this number in this set of parentheses equals 0. And then what we do is we actually have two equations, two one-step equations, and we just solve them. And we say, okay, well, this is x equals 0 plus 3 is 3. Right? So x could equal 3. Or another possibility is x could equal 2. And here is how we write it. Okay, this is important that you remember. You write x equals the smaller number first, comma, and a space, and then the larger number. X equals 2 or 3. Right? This doesn't mean x equals 2 and 3. It can't equal two numbers at the same time, but it can equal 2 or 3. Both of those values will solve the equation. Okay, here's another one. What about if my equation is something like x plus 4 and x, let's make this more interesting, 5x plus 7. Okay, then what? Well, either this number could equal 0 or this number could equal 0, right? Those are the possibilities. So either x plus 4 equals 0 or 5x plus 7 equals 0. So if x plus 4 equals 0, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. I get x equals negative 4. In this case, I actually have a two-step equation. I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. I get 5x equals negative 7. And when I divide by 5, you can write this as a fraction or a decimal here, right? You could just write negative 5/7. Negative 7/5. That would be fine. Or if you want to stick that in your calculator, you would get negative 1.4. Okay, or negative 1.4. Okay, but then again, when you write your answer, you write the smaller number first. Okay, now what's the smaller number here? Well, let's see, this is 1.4 and this is 4. Oh, so 1.4 is smaller. Careful. This is negative, right? So if you think about like a number line, right, here's 0. Negative 4 is here. Negative 1.4 is here. So negative 1.4 is actually a bigger number. So in this case, I would write negative 4, comma, negative 1.4. Okay, smaller, then bigger. Let's look at another example. Okay, so either this equals 0 or this equals 0. So x minus 5 equals 0 or x plus 5 equals 0. How do I solve this? Well, this is plus 5. This is minus 5. So x can equal, which one's smaller here? The negative 5. X can equal negative 5 or positive 5. And there it is. Okay, let me show you one more. Okay, because it's nice to be sort of prepared for the different possibilities here. What about this? Okay, this is still two numbers being multiplied to equal 0, right? This is this number times this number. This number times this number equals 0. So either this number equals 0 or this number equals 0. Okay, now this number equals 0, that's solved, right? X is already by itself. Here, in order to get x by itself, I subtract. So x could be -3 or 0, right? And in this case, -3 is the smaller number. And what I want to point out is you can always check this, right? You can always plug in. Like, let's say, in this case, let's just plug in. X is -5. Let's see, x is -5. -5 minus 5, that's -10. -5 plus 5, that's 0. So that's -10 times 0. Is that equal 0? Yes, perfect. That solves it. Over here, x is -4. Let's plug it in. -4 plus 4, that's 0. Here, this would be -20 plus 7, that's -13. That's 0 times 13. Is that 0? Yes, right? So you can always plug back in to check it. A couple important tips on the end here, right? So here are your tips, and these are important, okay? Because this has to do with how you type it in the computer, and the computer will count you wrong if you don't follow these rules. The smaller number first. Okay, you have to put the small number first. The computer, if you type in 5 then -5, the computer will count it wrong. Okay, if you type in 3 then 2, the computer will count it wrong. And the other thing is, so when you type it, you're going to have a problem that looks like this, and you're going to have a box to type it in. And what you're going to type is, you're going to type x, and then an equal sign, and then your first answer, right, which is the smaller number. So you're going to type your smaller answer. Then you type a comma. Okay, then you leave a space, so then hit space bar, and then hit your larger number. Okay, so just jot that down, because if you type it wrong, the computer will count it wrong. Okay, so make sure you always put the small number first, and you type x, then equals, then a smaller number, comma, then a larger number.